Ladies and gentlemen, coming at you from the Motor Valley of Europe, Stuttgart, Germany. Welcome to the Screens Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sigers. Behind the console is Tom. I am joined today by Dirk Beer, CEO of Screens, and
Hello.
Hi. Our guest today is Stefano Carminati. He's the VP of Strategy for Deep Design Systems. Stefano, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting me in this podcast. I'm very honored to participate.
We're glad to have you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So you have a history in the automotive industry in China. I believe you worked for Chang'an for 17 years in design. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and maybe a little bit about that experience?
Yes, absolutely. I had this long cooperation with Chang'an. In reality, I worked most of the time in Italy because in 2005 they decided to open a studio there. That was is a kind of story. They tried the several experiment, and finally they decided to open a studio that was officially open in 2006, but the operation started in 2005. So we are talking about a company that I didn't hear about before. I was introduced to them by the former design director of IDEA Institute in Italy. That was a very well-known company that unfortunately has closed a few years ago. And he told me about this project by this new Chinese company. He introduced a great possibility for the future. They are growing very fast. At that moment, it was absolutely unknown, the automobile industry in China. In Italy, was totally mystery. So I was introduced to them, and they say they were about to start this experiment for a time not precise length of time. So
But was that their first studio in Europe at all?
Yes, in reality, it was the first design studio of the company at all.
Oh, okay.
So so you have to imagine the company was very big, is very big. It was very big at that time. We are talking about a company that is one of the major industrial company in China. So I remember when I went several times later in the years to visit the president in Beijing, there was one building on one side of the road that was for the civil industry, and the correspondent on the military just on the other side of the road. They were kind of the same entity under the government, so it's state-owned, 100% state-owned company. So extremely big industry with an extremely old history, because they started in 1870, 1880, something like that. But they were not new in automobile industry, but they had a cooperation, a joint venture with Ford and other brands at that time. So they were, but in another company. So they were producing Ford together with Ford. So a joint venture. They were producing commercial vehicles for about 10 years, but they didn't start yet producing their own passenger cars. And they never developed a passenger cars alone. So they did some project with IDEA Institute, IDAG in Germany. So they decided to start from scratch. I didn't know about that when I went the first time in 2006, my first trip in China in 2006. When I arrived, there were a lot of people in the design studio, but
no, nothing.
The model shop at that time was absolutely nothing. It was a kind of garage.
Wow, what a challenge!
In a absolutely big company. So it was absolutely the start of the operation for them, 2005.
Yeah, so that's why you refer to it as an experiment, basically, is that we're talking about just a huge company that's never done this on their own before, and then you're walking right into that.
I felt to be in a kind of experiment, and the first year I got absolutely the impression it was an experiment. We received a number of projects during the year that was changing continuously, production sedan, concept car, another vehicle, kind of, we got the impression that we were there to prove the possibility for the company to go on in that direction. And we were only 5 person in the
5-person team.
Yes.
Jesus. And you were the only Italian, or were the others Chinese, or?
No, there were 5 person, excluding the management. That was made by 2.
Yeah.
There was kind of general manager and vice general manager. In the beginning, there was, as a design director, we got Luciano D'Ambrosio. That was very well known, coming from Bertone a few years before. And there were mostly Italian, one from Sweden, that is, he left, then he joined back a few years later, then he's still there now. In the beginning, it was really an extremely limited team.
Yeah.
But the number of projects was astonishing. I don't remember the first year, the number of projects. I remember the first year, I think I ate pizza for 1.5 months at midnight in the model shop.
Oh, Jesus. My God. Yeah.
Not coming back for days.
Really? And how long did it take you to produce the first, let's say, finished design for the first car?
The finished one that we publish, because as always happens, the majority of the work is not published or doesn't arrive to production. So the first one was a concept car that it took about 3 months to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems incredibly fast, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I have no reference, but
zero.
It's super fast, right? I mean,
no. Yeah, it is super fast. It is possible to do, let me say, but it's possible to do in different conditions.
Yeah. Okay.
Not exactly in the way we operated at that time. That time was extremely fast, so the team extremely small. We didn't get our own facility in terms of model shop, so we had to relate on suppliers, and we didn't get any support from the company in terms of, for example, engineering. We had at that time a very efficient, let me say, engineer, studio engineer, that was working on this concept car that was, in my opinion, really advanced for the moment. It was trying to interpreting the taste and desire of the Chinese customer at that time. We got a lot of success. It was very small MPV, transformable in a camping van.
Okay.
But with a lot of transformation inside.
Yeah.
That today, you realize how long time has passed already. Because for example, for the entertainment inside, we still have a projector. That it sounds strange today that we can have screens on every surfaces. At that time, we had a projector and the screen coming down from the roof to project over the videos.
But it was super advanced at that time, right? I mean, honestly, it's the first time I hear this, that the car has this. Or, I mean, even if it's convertible into a...
We were already considering the possibility to have transformations such hiding the steering wheel.
Okay.
So the entire dashboard became cushions for the bed. So it was a completely transformable interior. The seats became a flat bed, and the dashboard was soft, and the steering wheel was hiding into the dashboard. And we had the screen cover with a plastic transparent gel, soft.
Okay.
So the entire dashboard was completely soft touch. So you could lay down.
So you could lay everything flat,
relaxed.
sleep, basically, and if you hit your head, it was
sleep
soft.
inside the car. And then we had this, today looking very old,
the projector screen that just kind of came
projector coming down from the roof and projecting on a surface inside the trunk.
That's
the trunk lid.
Great, actually. So this was back in the mid, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2006.
Yeah, and you did this because you were kind of looking at the tastes of the Chinese market, right? So that's what you found?
Yes. Understanding the taste of the customer was really an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Really an adventure.
Yeah, you think it's still like that?
It's still like that, yes. I think, I continuously receive requests to explain how to get connected with that kind of mentality or that kind of taste, because they are always evolving, etc. But at that time, I remember very well the discussion I tried to get with the designers coming from China. Mm-hmm. So they start sending few people, one or two every 3 months, and it was incredible because they arrived. I used to say that they were traveling in time at that moment. So they was not only 10,000 kilometers away. It was also a few decades away from us at that time. Yeah. So it was really interesting to see their reaction when they arrive in Europe, and discussing with them what was their life in China at that time, etc. And I was lucky to find very good friends, very nice people that helped me a lot to understand their mentality deeply, because I think it's necessary to, when you are in front of somebody that really think in a different way from you, is necessary to go in the depth of their culture, to understand sometimes even things that they don't realize clearly themselves.
What was the biggest difference you realized, or when you're looking back, what was the most surprising thing when you compare the cultures or the needs of the clients, the customers, with respect to a car?
Yeah.
But let me say that things has changed a lot. So was not always the same. So China has changed dramatically since then.
Oh yeah. I mean, that industry has exploded over there.
Yeah, not only the industry, the society has changed completely. So, for example, they went through transformation that we got in decades. They went through in few years only. And the society has changed dramatically. Let me say, in the very beginning, they were, just to tell you about something about society, in the very beginning, people were expecting to marry not more than, not far from 20 years old. So around 20, 21, they were already married.
Yeah.
And they were planning to stay married for lifelong. The divorce didn't exist around roughly in 2005. And they were immediately thinking to have a child. They were allowed to have only one.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
And it was a big desire, and they were receiving a lot of pressure for the families, for everything, including the taste of buying a car. So the selection of cars was also very much influenced by the entire family.
Because they're like, it would be a family purchase kind of thing. Like we have to think
Exactly. Because,
So you have to consider a lot of people when designing the car. So it has to suit the grandmother as well as the...
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, I see. Interesting.
Friend, relatives, everybody was giving suggestions. So it was not like a personal taste choice.
Although everyone loves a projector, I will say.
That's probably...
We will go back to that point, because the value of experience is something that I find very interesting for Chinese people, still existing.
Yeah.
The idea of the experience, the dream of experiencing something that is different from the normal life.
Okay.
But that is another subject. So the family was absolutely traditional type, 2005. And it was like that. I cannot say how many years, but less than 10 years, everyone divorced.
Really? Okay.
was something absolutely not existent in 2005.
Yeah.
Today, they are not anymore thinking to marry that early. Many couple divorce.
Yeah.
Many couple don't want to have a child because they are thinking about careers. Their choices are extremely personal today. They are not feeling anymore that kind of pressure from the family. So, it's completely changed society in few years. In less than 10 years, completely has changed. Completely changed.
How do you adapt a car design now to this new society?
That is interesting, because, for example, this is when design thinking and marketing research found a problem. So here, the limitation of the classical way of thinking find a problem. There is a story when the government decided to remove the one-child policy. We receive a report, we receive a written document that there were studies in China, all the experts that says that because of this, most probably MPV are going to get back in the market as a request from the customer, because they were expecting to have an explosion of a demographic explosion. Yeah. And they were expecting to have large families that start asking for MPV. And so we start designing a huge amount of MPVs. Everything was an MPV explosion. And it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
at all.
Yeah.
But nice, because I was thinking, oh, this looks to be probably the most intelligent way of thinking. No? So you try to connect informations
Mhm.
and experience of the past.
Yeah.
So how was the family in the early 2000? The desire of the people in the early 2000 that was blocked by the regulation at that time.
Mhm.
But all the information were referred to the taste of 10 years before.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's not only changing a law that you can change society.
Mhm.
This is a much bigger thing.
Yeah.
So the society has changed, but many people, Chinese people, so people that were living there, they were born there, they know everything.
Mhm.
They didn't have the problem to try to interpret the society, the history, the taste. They were part of that society.
Mhm.
They were not able to understand that the society has changed.
Mhm.
So the new couple are today much more independent from the pressure of the family and the rest of the society.
Yeah.
They are looking for their own life. They want to live, build their own life. They want to experience. They want to travel. They want to have success in with their career,
Yeah.
and they are not anymore tempted, not linked to the traditional families.
Yeah.
So
That's fascinating to me. It's crazy how you have this one child policy and you think, okay, this is going to cause, once you lift this,
Yeah.
we're just going to have so many families, just people like they were just waiting to have kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
then
what you
it
expect.
doesn't happen. Like the opposite happens almost,
yeah,
you know?
but imagine how many hours we wasted completely.
Yeah.
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 I don't know, 1 year or 2 years of designing MPV that never arrived to the public.
Yeah, that's
Well,
crazy.
yeah. But did it make it easier to meet the client's needs? This transition to more of a Western desires with young people, you know, like following their career, not having so many kids, being more independent, more individual. Is that bringing them closer to what we have in the, let's say, Western Hemisphere regarding needs on cars? Or is it still a big difference in China?
That's very interesting question. I think makes the thing even more complicated.
Is it? Okay. Why?
Because because you can get more easily confused, because from one side, today the society looks much closer to our society. So you may be tempted to think that is easier to understand.
Yeah. Like it's still like it's the same because it
Yes,
looks
but
similar.
Yeah.
exactly. So for some aspect, yes, it is. For some aspect, is closer, and there are similarities, absolutely. But in reality, I still believe there is a very big difference in the basic, in the foundation, and this big difference come up sometimes in many ways,
Yeah. What kind of differences
even in
do
the
you see?
taste. But okay, for example, if if we talk about nature, we talk about sustainability.
Yeah.
The understanding of our human relationship with nature. I think there is absolutely a strong difference between how we feel and how Eastern people feels. I had before Chang'an long experience with Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, basically. And of course, there are strong differences, but there are more differences between that area and Europe, for example. They are more connected to, there is a kind of a blend of Chinese, Indian culture there. Anyway, the basic difference is that historically, and is absolutely rooted in our mind, in our Western mind, we believe to be in the center of the universe as human. Humans rule everything. In China, it's not like that. Absolutely. They believe to be the most delicate part of the nature, human. They are not, they don't believe to have the power to change the things.
I see. Yeah.
Negative or positive. They feel to be part of the nature, of a bigger nature. Instead, our way is completely different. We think we have the rights, we have the power, we can decide, and everything is has been created for ourselves. Now, the basic of religion that today is a bit more confused than in the past, but anyway, the cultural roots of Western world come from also mostly from the religion.
I was about to say that this is actually what the Bible tells us, that
yes,
we
exactly.
rule the world and have the power to change everything or adapt it to our needs.
It is. And then if you go to see what their religion, that is not exactly, in some cases, like Confucianism, is not exactly a religion, is a blend, is more like, is more like philosophy than a religion. For them, it's clear that we are in the world temporary. The universe is something bigger than humans, and we have just to respect it.
How does that affect the needs when you're designing things for different markets? And I'm curious because of these whole philosophies where we kind of feel like we're, the center of the world here, like whereas they seem to feel more like a part of it. But when you say, they feel like they don't change it necessarily for better or for worse, does that mean when you're looking for cars, you're designing cars to be more like EVs, for example, do you find that they're looking for more sustainable solutions or less sustainable solutions than, like maybe Western countries?
They look in a different way, let me say, because in this moment, Western countries, Western people, the market, the users are looking for sustainability because we feel the urge to change. We see the negative effect of what humanity has done, and talking about the simple topic like cars, what cars are accused, have been accused to have done. That we don't open this topic because it's very large. It's not only cars, of course, but and not mostly cars. But anyway, we feel the urge. We feel the urge because we see how fast the changes in the climate are happening, and we are exposed to the negative part of this. So to survive, to make the human survive, we feel the urge to change our behavior and choosing something that is more sustainable. So, for example, I don't know if it is correct to say, but I don't think they are looking for another planet to save human,
Right.
go there and saving humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No planet
I don't
B
think this is
thing.
their.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of. I think this is strong differences. We see ourselves in danger, so we try to save our planet. But if not, we are thinking already to the plan B.
Yeah, let's go to Mars and let's just set up colonies. Then you'd
Exactly.
have really weird car needs up there.
True.
For them instead, in this moment, the needs here is coincident. The request of the user are coincident, so they are also looking for something that is more sustainable, but the approach is different. For the reason I said before. For them is, yes, if we find something that can really allow us to be more in harmony with nature, is something that we like. Is something that people are willing to spend more for that. This is kind of important. I remember because during my several trips in China, I always try to speak with people around and making kind of my personal research. And I remember that I talked with people several times, asking them if they were willing to spend more money for something that is something that cars, for example, that allow them to feel they were more sustainable, more in harmony with nature. That is a point. To be in harmony with nature is the concept for them.
Interesting. Interesting.
It sounds like we're all kind of aiming towards the same thing.
Yeah.
We're just getting there different ways.
Yes. Yeah. That is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of strong differences. For example, we except for something like in agriculture, but mainly this is my observation, not the scientific observation, but we mainly refer to sun for everything, and they always refer to moon. So more or less is the same, but you see from different perspective.
Just a different way of thinking. That's I mean, it's interesting, especially when it comes to the vehicles, because regardless of how we get there, it seems like design needs to go towards, or at least the future of cars and car design needs to be sustainable vehicles, basically.
Yes.
One thing I found very interesting in the paper you sent was that you said that for the majority of the clients for Chang'an, it was the first car purchase, which is kind of very surprising. So I mean, obviously because they were decades behind. And when I compare this to what we have, let's say in the Western Hemisphere, the way people look at cars has changed dramatically. In the beginning, it was kind of a status symbol. I myself come from a generation where the game was, you finish your studies, and the one who has the biggest car first has won the game. So this has changed. So most of my employees don't have cars anymore at all. So they have a different perspective on this, and it's more of an something you need to get from A to B, but they don't identify that strong with it. How is it in China? Did they skip this period totally? Like say, okay, I save for a vehicle for 5 years, buy it, and I'm proud of it? Or are they still in that stage? Or are they already having this car sharing and I don't need a car thing as it is here already with the younger generation?
No, I think they passed through that period, but in, let me say, 10 years.
Yeah, much faster.
For us, lasted. Yeah,
I did this
like everything else. Of course, in my early times in my experience with Chang'an, in the beginning, yes, it was, for most of them, was the first purchase, because in the beginning, in around 2005, 6, or maybe even, more or less that time, there were only one car every 10 people in China. So in Europe, we had already 2 point something, maybe, I don't know, 1 point something, or anyway, more than one per person. And as I said before, in the very beginning, they were receiving a lot of pressure to decide which car. Having a car was, of course, a symbol of accomplishment. Arriving to a certain point in society, you get married with the right person, and you get a car, then you get a house, etc. So the normal thing. It was necessary to have a car. For example, there was a designer, a young designer in Chang'an, that he got married very, very early. He invited me to see his new apartment. I met his wife, the child, and he showed me his car that was sitting on the road under centimeter of dust because he didn't get the driving license. For years.
Oh, really?
For years, yes. He was afraid to drive, but his family gave him a lot of pressure to buy a car.
Oh, really?
And he bought a car to get parked in front of the house.
Like a
because
trophy.
that was that was necessary for him to demonstrate that he arrived to that point in society, and he parked the car there for, I don't know, a few years without driving it.
Interesting. What a story. Okay.
And now, also from that point of view, is completely different. Of course, like in our society, there are certain situations, certain part of the society that still consider cars as a status symbol. Not as much as before, but the phenomenon is not is still similar, let me say. So in China as well, but the new generation are like here. So they are not willing to buy a car anymore. It is not an objective for them, for their life. So, for example, the phenomenon of Didi was really huge. You know about this kind of Chinese Uber.
Oh, yeah.
Very beautiful. That was crazy. I met several people that left their job to become a Didi driver. And people start selling their own cars. Some of my colleagues in Chang'an sold their cars because there was no point to owning a car in the city.
That's amazing. Could you go from this car sitting there with dust on it
Yes.
to, a decade later, people are selling their cars, just because I don't need it anymore.
Does that only apply to people living in the cities like it is here? I mean, I always hear this, that the younger generation isn't that much interested in owning a car, but that is only possible when you live in the city and you can't reach everything by public transport. When you move in a rural area because you want to have your kids play in the garden, I live in a small village and everybody has a car because you cannot afford not to have one. You can't drive to work by bike, and I mean, if you would spend 4 hours commuting. So, even
have
though
great legs though. So there's that part.
But still, the attitude changes in a way. I mean, you might not. It's maybe not that much of a status thing anymore, but still, people need cars after all, and they all own one. What do you think where this is going? Are we all going to end up with, let's say, autonomous Uber cars, or
I'm really curious
because then we're going to lose the magic. If you don't drive it anymore yourself, it's nothing magical. I mean, like an airplane or a train. If I would drive the train, it would be magic. But I don't, so I just hop on. So,
I don't really want to see you drive the train. That would be scary.
It would be magic for everybody.
It would be magic like a haunted house. You'd be scared the whole time. But yeah, you're right. It's crazy because the vehicle experience changes. It's like you say, with an airplane, you just kind of get on and then go somewhere and then just get off after you go through security and all that other stuff. Hopefully. But now the cars seem to be going to this direction where eventually autonomous vehicles, you're just going to get on, go to your destination, get off. So the requirements for those vehicles are going to be different, right? Like how do you see that going?
That's very painful.
It is, right?
For me, because I am absolutely car nuts. I really dedicate all my life in desiring cars, desiring driving cars, desiring designing cars, and I was absolutely grown with this idea of the cars, sport, etc. So I have few historical cars. I race with them, so I like the sound. To the point, I have one. I race with a Formula 3 of the 60s. That is 1000 cc. At that time, that category was called screamers. Those revs up to 10,000 RPM. So the sound is really intense.
Yeah.
And is not very well accepted today.
No.
In some circuit, I have to raise a silence that is really painful for the emotion. We are going that direction, but I think not 100%. We are considering, when we speak about that kind of emotion, the magic of cars, the passion of cars, we have to consider that anyway, it has born like a niche. It was not for everyone. There were a lot of people that were not interested in this. And those people are today the majority of car users.
True.
If you consider the quantity of people that really don't care about the magic of cars, today I think they are the majority of the users of cars. This is good from one side, that means that the product itself has arrived to become a completely mass product. And of course, for them, the magic is not the same as we that are passionate about cars. Is not the same kind of feeling. Sometimes I really get surprised when I read about the requirement of customer for the driving pleasure, the driving emotion. And I realize that is not the same that I have. It's completely different. So when I speak about driving emotion, for me is not always arriving to the limit, but almost. Feeling the car sliding, the control of the car. In reality, the pleasure of driving today is mostly on comfort. You're having a soft riding and be isolated from the road.
I mean, you talk about the screamers. Like now, cars are pretty much silent.
True.
Exactly. So you don't have to. You don't have to feel something that today is, for most, is considered disturbing, that kind of sound. But sometimes they also like to have a sound that gives the sensation of power, but in a different way from those who are really purist, passionate about cars. Is in a different. For me, having a fake sound that reproduce a V8 far away, because for me is absolutely not good. No, I'm not that kind of customer. But I realized that the majority of the customer don't know and are not interested in that kind of performances, in that kind of sound, and to connect the driving sensation with the reality of the road. Today, the level of development, the technical level of development of the new cars are incredible. No, I'm amazed to drive modern cars, and I'm amazed to feel when you drive a car today on the steering wheel, you are completely not connected to the road.
No, it's crazy because cars now are like that. It's less of a mechanical thing, and it's more of a piece of technology rather than that.
Exactly. So you are most likely in a video game than in reality.
True.
And this is amazing, the level of development the engineering has done with the product. And I realized that most of the users like it. Now they are looking for this. We arrived to this point not for the exercise of the crazy engineer that want to develop the car this way. We arrived there because following the expectation of the customer. So it is correct. It is correct because the goal of the company is to satisfy their customer. It's very different from my personal pleasure on driving. I always like to count the little stone on the road for the vibration on the steering wheel. But today is not possible. Simply, absolutely not possible.
No.
But people are looking for that. So, but there is the niche, like myself, still exists. There is a niche. We became a kind of protected species.
True.
And I believe the product for that kind of taste will continue to exist. We continue to develop, and maybe, let me say, in future we will go in a future in which there will be specialized manufacturer or specialized product that are going to satisfy ourselves even more than in the past. So I think there will be a kind of return to that desire.
That's what I also believe. Do you think, as you're talking about specialized,
but not many products? Let me say, the majority will be the product for the majority of the consumer. So there will be this kind of computer on wheels to satisfy the request of the majority of the users.
But I mean, that sounds like we're going to end up with, let's say, if when you think a vehicle is driving autonomous and you don't even have to own it, so identification drops. So you don't care about the design anymore that much. So because you get you get a car today that looks like this and another one like this, and you maybe go by availability or price or something on your, let's say, autonomous Uber you order. Do you think that we are going to end up with, let's say, 5 major manufacturers that produce all the cars for the world, for the majority of the people, and some specific manufacturers that serve needs for people like us that still enjoy driving a technical machine? Because there's no reason for, currently I'm a hardcore Mercedes fan because I grew up in Stuttgart. So, but when all this is not relevant anymore, since it's not a status symbol, since you don't identify with the car, there is no need for distinctive brands anymore. It's I don't care what a train looks like or who made it. I just hop on. I mean, it's a sad future but do you think this is where we're going to end up?
Yeah, I don't see. I don't see it that sad. Let me say.
Okay.
I believe we are going more or less in that direction in terms of needs, request, expectation. Nice, the example of the train. I used to make this example. When you choose your own house, you apply a certain taste.
Yeah.
When you choose the hotel for the weekend, you have a completely different taste.
Yeah.
But anyway, you choose.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So you choose something that most probably you are not going to choose for your house. I don't think in the majority of the cases, people get inspired by hotels to build up their own house. It's two different way of thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, is a choice, is a taste, is a choice of taste. So the design, in my opinion, will continue to play a crucial role in the product. The product will change a lot. Not necessarily became more anonymous.
Yeah.
Especially if will not be linked to the property anymore. Because when you buy something and you invest a lot of money at once, you expect the product to last proportionally on your investment.
Yeah, yeah.
And you dedicate more attention to make sure that the car will be will conserve a certain value after the time you are owning. So you are not choosing something that personal because you have to sell it back after a few years. So you have to choose something that will please also some other people later. In case instead you are not spending that amount of money in the beginning, but you can choose something that you really like for 1 month, 1 year. So you can go more wild in your taste. You can try to be different for, you can have one year of wildness and appearing with a car that you would never choose for yourself.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's a good thought. If I would have to choose a lifetime airplane, I would go for a trade-off between comfort and price and stuff. But if I can decide on each single trip what makes more sense, I go into the needs of that specific occasion. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's it makes up for a better future when I think of it that way.
Another thing that is my dream. I hope we are going that direction, because with electric cars, from a technical point of view, they are much more simple in terms of quantity of not of technology, but complexity of technology, of the elements, the number of elements. So, and I don't know if we will have time to see this happening, but I hope will happen, because this will be a total reborn of design, of car design. I imagine that car manufacturer, as big industry, will arrive to produce this substructure of cars, similar for many different brands. And then we are seeing the rise of additive manufacturing, for example. So we see that there is a possible future in which the user will be the producer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the user can easily access to design for themselves, to be more involved at least in the design process. And maybe the car designer will be more connected with a single user and be able to create more personalized vehicles based on a substructure, more simple.
Yeah.
If the car will be autonomous, we will need probably much less passive security devices, because the accident will be reduced to a point in which we will not need that amount of passive safety in cars.
Yeah.
So there will be just
only
the
to
technology.
protect us from the few self-driving screamers on the road.
We can hear you coming now.
If there will be allowed to drive on
no, it's true.
on all the road, maybe there will be, we are getting like the pandas, so we are becoming we will have
species,
our protected zoo for driving our self-driving cars. So
I find it interesting. Yeah, like you talk about the future of people possibly being more involved in designing cars and things. What do you think? And I think you recently gave a talk about this, was like the role of like AI and artificial intelligence in the future of car design. Like, what are your opinions on that?
That is very interesting, because in my last years with Chang'an, I was willing to give a new motivation to the investment of Chang'an in Europe. Because of course during the years, as I said in the beginning, they didn't have a proper design studio in China. They had it as a structure, but was not really working. So our design studio in Europe was the main design studio for several years. Of course, this needs to change during the years. So nowadays they have fantastic studio in China, beautiful location, very well equipped, full of people, full of creative people. And I was thinking as a natural, how was the possibility of changes in the design studio in Europe, because anyway it requires to change at a certain point. So I was thinking to find new cooperation and looking more into the future possibilities, future study, getting more involved in the innovation, and I start working in that direction accordingly with the top management, of course. And at a certain point, I felt linked to that kind of world more than keep developing production car for the normal everyday users, and that were becoming a little bit, I don't say annoying, because it is a nice job anyway, but I went already through a big transformation in the market. So I saw already a big transformation, and what is happening is just an evolution in this moment. We are in a standby moment, in my opinion. Also in terms of technical requirements, EV, battery cars. Only a few years ago, many people in the industry were thinking more about hydrogen than battery. Now we see battery is probably, but if we think in reality, I don't think we have a complete determination of what will be the product. So we are in kind of standby with a lot of technological possibilities that are changing every day.
Yeah.
So for this new job of myself, my new role in scouting technologies, looking into the future, cooperating with universities, the research centers, I start feeling that I like that kind of looking into the future. And I got close to this AI startup. And the first time they show me what they were working on, I said, "Oh gosh, this is going to kill every design studio in the world. So we are dead. Our job will not longer exist."
Yeah.
And I decided to look farther into it to understand how was really this artificial intelligence. There is a lot of mystery around it.
Yeah.
So I also start studying a little bit how it works, etc. And I discovered that no, we still have the humanity, the human designer. We still have the control, fortunately, for many reasons. So the artificial intelligence is only a very powerful tool to enlarge our possibilities. So our brain can absorb an enormous amount of information, but we cannot manage consciously all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, talking about designers, how the mind of designers works. We are like everyone, every other person, not differently. We have a brain that absorbs continuously all life long in a certain amount of information, and then we give back this information through our design job, our proposals. But most of the time, we cannot identify which kind of influence created that output, because it is just our experiences that are elaborated by our brain in an absolutely unconscious way. And then when it's necessary to produce something, we create these design proposals with this amount of information, but we cannot coordinate, we cannot explain most of them. And this is, when many people ask to designers, where do you get your inspiration? And that is one of the biggest hit in the questions that I receive normally. Where did you get your inspiration? I don't know, from life, from culture, inspiration, everything I've been up to now, what I was reading, all the images that I saw, etc. Artificial intelligence can help designer to organize better these informations and suggest some specific choice that designer should take or not. Is dangerous, let me say. It is dangerous because, in my opinion, the most dangerous part of artificial intelligence is the amount of expectation humans are giving to it. So if we believe that artificial intelligence will solve all our problems, and we give this amount of trust to artificial intelligence, then we can get in danger easily. Instead, if we believe what is artificial intelligence, how it works, and use it to our advantage to enlarge our possibilities, this will be a great advantage, something that we couldn't get up to now. And this is this is precisely the intention of this startup that I'm working with now, to help designers to create a product, a software product, to stay beside the designers, working together.
Yeah.
So having a kind of assistant that tells you why you are doing that, from where it comes. If that design solution is really connected to the intention that you declare that you are looking for, or is connected to something else that you believe is correct and maybe not. In car design, of course, this is a proposition that will work for the design process in general. It can be applied to any industry.
Absolutely.
Because the design process is universal. But for example, if we talk about car design, today there are some examples that are very interesting in my opinion. You can pick cars that are not showing any element of sportivity, any connection to the world of races and sports, but because the majority of designers have that kind of car culture, so they are designing new cars, even if when they are designing a car that doesn't need to be connected to that kind of world, you can identify some details in completely hidden spaces that if you isolate it, you recognize that is, for example, reminding a side exhaust of racing cars. And in my opinion, I don't know if that designers are really thinking about that, or he applied that shape only because it's part of his culture. And come out without thinking about it.
Like that's what
artificial intelligence helps. Yes.
Do you think it would also help to consider all the needs from the different stakeholder in the design process? Because you cannot only go by your own, perception of what a good car looks like. You have the competitor, you have your boss, you have, several things to consider, and then create something that suits all needs. Will the artificial intelligence help solving this problem?
Yeah, this is particularly one of the scope of the job that I'm working on with this startup company. I personally realized in my experience that has been difficult. The major difficulties I've been through was communication. Designer has a particular language that is made by drawings. It's a visual language. I realize in my careers that not always is easy to explain through that language. That language is universal. Everybody can understand it. You don't have to learn about it. So I can work from United States to Japan, from North Pole to South Pole, and I don't have to change a language. Just sketching, presenting ideas is the same. But I realized that designers can understand, and not always people can understand the same. Other people can understand the same thing. This is especially valid in arts. I used to go to art exhibitions, and it's interesting if I stay in front of a painting and listen the comments of other people around, they see something different that I don't see. It's completely different. But it's an image, it's a painting. Why they see in that way? I remember something that I brought my mother-in-law to visit the Dali Museum several years ago. It was really painful because she hated me for that. She couldn't understand anything there, in the museum.
Yeah.
She is very traditional, and I asked her why you don't like it, and she said because I cannot recognize anything. I cannot recognize what is it.
Yeah.
So she liked only the painting in which she can identify a person or an object, etc. This is, I think, is very human. Coming back to the design, when you talk with engineer, top managers, marketing people, and you talk with them through the images, your images, they look the images, but the marketing people think about how many people will like that color or that shape, which is the amount of people, the percentage in the customer that are accepting this or that, or willing to have something that is more like another brand or whatever. Top manager think about how big the investment to produce it and how fast he got pay back the investment. The engineer, the complexity. They are talking different language, and we are everyone in front of a drawing, and the top manager cannot say, I imagine to be the president of a company, and I have to choose that proposal from a drawing, and I don't know if people will really buy it. I don't know how it will be in reality. This is why we are forced sometimes to arrive to a certain level of complexity in the creation of the prototypes. It's not for the designers. Designer, let me say, if we have a clay model, full-size clay model is over our needs. Okay, we can evaluate the proportion in real, etc. Sometimes you can put the film on it and dividing. For us is enough dividing the greenhouse that is dark to the body color to understand the proportions, etc. But for us it's enough. We can imagine how it will be in reality. But to communicate to the others, we have to produce vehicles that looks real, spending a lot of money and a lot of time. Artificial intelligence, in my opinion, can help to create a bridge, a kind of automatic translator, real-time translator. So if you design something and you have this proposal, and beside this proposal, you have already a simulation of a marketing research based on marketing data, that solution fits that amount of people, that percentage, and this will help marketing people to understand why we have done that solution in that direction. That is fulfilling that kind of request.
It helps everyone see the same picture, basically.
Yeah, you see the picture, but beside you have the translation for marketing that is helping also top manager and take the decision, or having also some information about this part can be produced using that material that is considered sustainable up to that kind of percentage, and the cost is lower or higher on the other material that can give us possibility to produce a different shape. All of this information is impossible for a team, not only one person. A team of designers cannot really include all this information and present this information to a group of people that has to decide to produce it or not. If you have artificial intelligence beside that helping you through the process, then you can arrive to a point in which everyone can understand the same language. And in front of the image, you can see, okay, this is the image, but this image is like this because of all this data.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I think is great evolution for our job.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very much.
And I always think of artificial intelligence the same way. Like the humans always involved. I feel like it's just people always, the fear is that this is going to take over. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your job. We're just going to rely on machines to do everything. But I see it because I do creative work, and it's just a tool to get you there. And I like your approach there. Like, it gets everybody on the same page. It helps them all see what the others are seeing, so you can kind of create something as a team.
Yeah.
Hopefully I summarized that correctly.
No. It's I believe like that, and of course I was as I said, I was scared in the beginning. Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
The more you know how it works, you realize, of course, there are, like any human inventions in the past, there are a kind of dark side that you have to work to avoid it. There are dangers. In the medieval times, they ban. I don't know how to call it. No, it's not arch. It's I don't know how to call it, but they ban this weapon.
A bow and
Like
arrow.
a bow and arrow?
Bowling. Yes,
Bow
exactly.
and arrow.
Bowling.
Yeah.
They ban it because it was a mass destruction weapon.
yeah.
So they were convinced that using that weapon, humanity will end. Now we have atomic bomb.
Yeah. It escalated quickly from there.
Yeah.
I would.
So also artificial intelligence, of course, there are negative side. There are possibility to use it in a negative way. It may influence negatively the work. Some work will change, some work will end, like always happen in the history.
Yeah.
But the creativity is something that is human only.
Absolutely. And change is always inevitable. I think that we could probably talk about this for another 2 hours, but I think we're out of time today. But we would love to have you come back on the show and talk more about this for sure. This has been fantastic. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and opinions and being on the show with us.
Yes.
Stefano Carminati, VP of Strategy, Deep Design Systems. Thank you again for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.